Jackson had an absolute, total, and thorough inability to sleep.
I'm here to get justice for Micheal Jackson.
Your Honor, I was innocent man.
He was not an anesthesiologist. He was not board certified in cardiology. Conrad Murray was not board certified in any medical specialty. Micheal Jackson's death was a homicide. And then I'd like to publish it to the jury.
I think you need to ask the question of Mr. Alvarez first, foundational.
Thank you. Mr. Alvarez, showing you people's 29 and 30 with the propofol bottle now inside of the saline bag. Does this accurately represent what you saw hanging from the IV stand on June 25th, 2009?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And as it is depicted in this bag with the metal rimmed stopper toward the bottom of the bag, toward the port, was that the direction in which the bottle was seated inside the bag?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And was it slightly sideways as well as reflected in its current state?
Yes, sir. It was a little bit more towards this area. The stopper was
more toward the side?
Yes, sir.
Okay. May I publish this to the
Well,
jury?
let's just find out, because Mr. Alvarez just manipulated a little bit. Does that reflect its position, or do you want to move it a little more?
If I may.
All right. Hand the items to Mr. Alvarez, please.
I remember seeing it like that, sir.
Okay.
Like that.
And you've indicated on kind of a diagonal within the bag. Is that accurate?
Correct. Yes,
Okay. May I, Your Honor?
You may. Starting with the jurors, front of the jury box and behind, closer to the jury deliberation room, and working the way down the jury box to the jurors and alternates.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Have you had a chance to see that exhibit, ladies and gentlemen? Indicating affirmative. Thank you.
Your Honor, may we approach?
Well, I had to, but I can't find it. I had it in my hand.
Are going to take the mid-morning break at this time. Please remember the admonitions and orders. It'll be about a 15-minute break, which you can feel free to take and enjoy in the jury deliberation room, remembering all the admonitions. Thank you.
Okay, we're doing a 15-minute break.
Yes, sir.
Okay, we're starting back up again, and
Thank you, Your Honor.
I'm going to be doing some tweeting at the same time, so y'all going to have to bear with me.
Mr. Alvarez, we left off talking about the large propofol bottle inside the saline bag and you placing that in the bag, the other bag, at Conrad Murray's instruction. After these events took place that you've been describing before the break, at that time, did Conrad Murray instruct you to call 911?
Yes, sir.
Do you recall what his exact words were?
He said, call 911.
Okay. By you at 12:20 p.m.?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You've reviewed your phone records?
Correct.
Okay. And that call is reflected in People's 26. The bottom of People's 26, 12:20, Alberto Alvarez calling 911 emergency operator, 163 seconds. Do you see that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Did you call 911?
Yes, I did.
Now, from the time you terminated your phone call with Michael Amir to the time you called 911, In that period of time, is that when these events took place that you've described?
Yes, it was.
So that was a very short period of time. Is that fair to say?
It was a vast period of time, I would say. Yes, sir.
Separating the observations you made, the observations of Mr. Jackson laying on the bed with his palms up, the observations of the condom catheter, and the observations, for example, of the IV stand. Were these isolated observations, or were these observations you were making simultaneously to these events taking place?
Absolutely. It was the same.
Were these observations, you can answer yes or no, were these observations made simultaneously to these events taking place?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And during this short period of time, would this be the period of time that you ushered Paris and Prince out of the room?
Yes.
Okay. Put up the grocery bag into which Dr. Murray dropped the vials and then put that into another bag?
Yes.
And took the saline bag with the propofol bottle in it off the IV stand and placed into another bag?
That's correct, sir.
Are those, following those events, and you've described them in detail earlier, following those events, is that when you called 911?
Yes, sir.
Okay. During these events, you're obviously aware that this was an emergency situation?
Of course, yes.
Okay. Were you moving quickly?
Yes, sir, I was.
And were you obeying Dr. Murray's instructions?
Yes, I was.
Now, when you called 911 per Dr. Murray's instructions at 12:20 p.m., did you relay to the 911 operators what you had observed and what you were observing at that very moment?
That's
I already
correct.
dressed. I get out of here.
Yeah, at this time I'd like to play the 911 call. With the court's permission, I'd ask that the CD of the 911 call be marked Peoples 31.
They're getting ready to play the 911 call.
I'd also ask that the transcript of the 911 call be marked Peoples 32 for identification.
They are marked.
Defense counsel has a copy. With the court's permission, may I hand these out to the jurors?
Okay. Thank you. You may. Ladies and gentlemen, each one of you now will receive your own copy of an exhibit marked Peoples 32. When you get Peoples 32, put Peoples 32 on that document, and as before, put your seat number on it and circle your seat number. So it's Peoples 32 on the document as well as your seat number. Thanks. Perhaps you may want to give a transcript to Mr. Alvarez?
Yes. And the court.
And me. Thank you.
Sir.
Counsel stipulate that Mrs. Theodoro need not transcribe. Mr. Chernoff? Mr. Walgren?
Yes, Your Honor.
Stipulation's accepted. Ladies and gentlemen, do each of you have your own copy? I think it's still being passed out. Okay. It's Peoples 32. One moment, please. Peoples 32. Does every juror and alternate have a copy? Yes? Me? Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, as I indicated once before, the actual exhibit is Peoples 31, which is the CD of any recording. Peoples 32 is a transcript prepared by somebody else. Use it only as a guide. If you happen to hear something differently from what is transcribed, rely upon your own recollection and your own determination of the facts. Thanks. Mr. Walker.
I'm now going to play the 911 call.
Exhibit 31. You may.
Mr. Alvarez, was that your voice?
Yes, sir.
Is that difficult to hear?
It is.
And that was you relaying the address and the information, and that Michael Jackson was at that time on the bed?
Yes, sir.
And Conrad Murray at that time was still attempting CPR, according to the recording?
Correct, sir.
Now, at that time, to your recollection, was Michael Jackson removed from the bed to the floor?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
And at the time that you moved, or please describe how Mr. Jackson was then moved from the bed to the floor.
Well, Dr. Conrad Murray was at the top of the bed, at the top of the bed, and I was at the feet of the bed. And so when I said we need to move him to the floor, I grabbed him from his legs, closer to his ankles in that manner, and Dr. Conrad Murray grabbed him from the upper torso, and we proceeded to move him just down towards the side of the bed.
As you were doing that, did you notice any IV tubing coming from the area of the IV stand into Mr. Jackson's body?
Yes, sir.
What did you see?
There was a long, clear plastic tube that was hanging from the IV bag that was still on the IV stand, and it was connected to Mr. Jackson's leg.
And at some point, did you see Dr. Murray remove that?
Yes, sir.
Was that at this point in time?
Correct.
What did you see?
I seen him pulling it out of his leg.
Okay. And at the time that Mr. Jackson was moved, did you observe Conrad Murray attach some device to Michael Jackson's finger?
Yes, sir.
And again, was that at this point in time that you've described?
Correct.
Describe what you saw.
His hand was to his side.
Whose hand?
Mr. Jackson's hand was to the side, and there was like a brown box right on the bed, and Dr. Conrad Murray actually clamped it or clipped it onto his finger before we moved him down to the bed.
Okay. So when you first, on that day, at that moment when you first saw this brown box, it was on the bed?
Correct, sir.
Okay. Not attached to Michael Jackson?
No, sir.
Okay.
Nothing negative?
Was it attached to Michael Jackson?
No, sir.
Okay. And then you saw Dr. Murray take it, and you described, for the record, you described him clipping it on to Mr. Jackson's finger?
Correct. Yes, sir.
Your Honor, if the court desires, we can unplug the audio so we don't have the feedback.
Yeah, we're getting a little feedback. Deputy Jones is going to help us out with that. Thank you, sir.
May I proceed, Your Honor?
You may.
I'm going to add an item here, Your Honor. The pulse oximeter. Previously booked into LAPD custody as item 135. Previously been shown to defense counsel. May this be marked Peoples 33 for identification, Your Honor?
It is. I'd like to take a look at it, but you may, Mr. Turner. Let me know. Mr. Warren?
Thank you, Your Honor.
You're welcome.
And I will at this time ask that People's 33 be moved into evidence, Your Honor.
Any objection, Mr.
No
Turner?
objections.
People's 33 is received in evidence.
Mr. Alvarez, I want to show you People's 33. And describing for the record, it's a small plastic device. Attached to it is a dark neck lanyard or cord. Do you recognize this item, sir?
Yes, I do.
Is this the item that you saw laying in the bed at the time you were moving Mr. Jackson from the bed to the floor with Dr. Murray's assistance?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And does this appear to be the item that you saw Conrad Murray pick up from the bed and clip on to Micheal Jackson's finger in this manner?
It does. It appears, yes, sir.
Okay. And at that time, did you have any idea what this item was?
Yes, sir. A few days prior,
Let me ask, as a medical device, did you know what this item was?
somewhat, yes.
Okay. Let me ask you, before you explain that, may I publish this to the jury, Your Honor?
Any objection, Mr. Chernoff?
No
Thank
objection.
you. People's 33 can be published. From the area of jurors 1 and 7 to the area of the alternates in this case.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Alvarez, you began to, I'd asked you if you had an idea of what this device was on June 25th, 2009, and you began to indicate you did. Can you please explain what your knowledge was of this device at the time you saw Conrad Murray clip it on to Micheal Jackson's finger?
Well, what I remember, sir, is that a few days before June 25th, Dr. Conrad Murray came down towards the security trailer, and he came in and asked the security staff if anybody had batteries, AAA batteries to be exact. And there was one of the securities, which is Isaac Muhammad, that reached into his briefcase and was able to pull out 2 AAA batteries and then proceeded to give them to Dr. Conrad Murray.
Okay. And you had seen Dr. Murray holding the device at that time?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And was something said by Dr. Murray that gave you some idea of what this device was?
Yes. I remember asking him what that was, and he said it was a heart monitor, I believe he mentioned. Something to that extent. Yes, sir.
Some description of it being a monitor?
Yes, sir. Correct.
And that was a few days prior to June 25th?
Yes, sir. Could have been a week, something to that.
Okay. But on June 25th, 2009, when you first saw this device, it was laying in the bed?
Correct.
Mr. Alvarez, at some point then, following the call to 911, did Fahim Mohammed arrive in the room?
Yes, sir.
And you recall saying anything to Fahim Mohammed at that time?
Yes, sir. He was coming in through the foyer, and I kind of approached him, met him like halfway, and I believe I said, "It's not looking well," or "It's not looking good." And we briefly had, we were standing almost face to face, and then Dr. Conrad Murray asked if anyone knew CPR.
Okay. And in response to Dr. Murray's question whether anyone knew CPR, what, if anything, did you do, Mr. Alvarez?
Me and Fahim, actually, we kind of looked at each other for a split second, and I turned and went to assist Dr. Conrad Murray to do CPR.
Okay. And as far as when you then approached Mr. Jackson to assist Dr. Murray, what did you do specifically?
He instructed me to give chest compressions, and so I started doing chest compressions, sir.
For the record, you just indicated two hands, one hand on top of the other in a downward motion. Is that accurate?
That is correct, sir.
Did you know how to do CPR prior to that day?
I did.
How was that?
I used to be a swimmer, and that's how they would always teach us CPR in our swim team.
While you were doing this two-handed chest compression that you've described, what, if anything, was Dr. Murray doing?
He was giving mouth-to-mouth, sir.
And what, if anything, did Dr. Murray say as he was giving mouth-to-mouth to Mr. Jackson?
I recall that after a couple or a few breaths that he breathed into Mr. Jackson, he came up and he said, this is the first time I do mouth-to-mouth, but I have to. He's my friend. And he continued to give mouth-to-mouth, sir.
And did you continue with the two-handed chest compressions?
Yes, sir, for a moment.
And shortly thereafter, did the paramedics arrive in the room?
Correct, yes, sir.
And did they take over the attempts to revive Mr. Jackson at that time?
That is correct.
At any point from your entry into the room to the point that the paramedics arrived, at any point from your own personal observations, was there any indication that Micheal Jackson was alive?
No, sir.
At the point then that the paramedics arrived on scene and took over, I assume you stepped away from the scene?
Correct.
What did you do?
I stepped away closer to the foyer area, and they moved Mr. Jackson from the side of the bed over towards the foot of the bed.
Okay. Is that the paramedics?
That is the paramedic, sir.
And did you remain in that room continuously then, or what did you do exactly after that happened?
I continued there for a moment, and then I went downstairs a couple of times, I believe. Yes.
For what purpose, if you recall?
One of them was to check on the children, and the other one was to allow Micheal Amir, or to meet Micheal Amir downstairs at the bottom.
Okay. And at some point then, were you present when the paramedics brought Mr. Jackson down the stairs on a gurney?
It was at the second time that I had gone down, or I was downstairs, and I was about to go up towards the room when they were already coming out of the room, going down the stairs, so I just stayed downstairs and waited for them to exit the house.
Okay. And so where were you when you saw them? And let me just be clear, did you see them coming down the stairs?
Yes, sir. They were about to start coming down the stairs, sir.
Okay. And where were you at that time?
I was at the bottom of the stairs.
Okay. And then you went out to the front of the house?
Correct.
And as they brought Mr. Jackson outside in the gurney, what were you doing at that point?
I believe I went towards the children and started talking to them so that they wouldn't see their father come out like that.
Were they, the children, Prince, Paris, and Blanket, were they in a vehicle at that time?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And were you kind of blocking the view of their father?
I was trying to distract them, trying to get their attention, yes.
And were you present then once the paramedics left the location of Carrollwood and proceeded to UCLA Ronald Reagan Medical Center?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And did you follow the paramedics to the hospital?
I did.
Do you recall in what vehicle?
I was in one of the Escalades, sir.
Okay. Do you recall with whom you drove to UCLA?
Yes, sir. I believe it was Derek Muhammad, Fahim Muhammad, and I believe Micheal Amir was in the vehicle. There was three securities plus myself.
Okay. And you recall your arrival at UCLA?
Yes, I do.
Okay. And were you present when the paramedics pulled into the emergency room bay that's reserved for emergency vehicles?
I was.
Okay. And at that time, were you present when Michael was unloaded off the paramedic's rig and taken straight into the emergency room?
Yes, I was.
What were you doing at that time as Mr. Jackson was brought from the rig into the hospital?
Well, there was a lot of paparazzi that was following us, and so what we wanted to do is protect Mr. Jackson's privacy. So as they were getting him off, I remember going towards the paparazzi and asking them, please, this is a private moment, please step away. And then I proceeded to head back towards the ambulance, and I took off my coat, I believe, and I tried, covering the view.
Okay. And did you remain at the hospital while the emergency room doctors attempted to save Michael Jackson?
Yes, sir.
Were you present at the hospital when he was subsequently pronounced dead?
Yes, I was.
Sir, were you, while at the UCLA Medical Center, following the pronouncement of death, did you speak to Conrad Murray?
Short periods of time, yes. We said a few words.
At some point he came up to you and thanked you?
Yes, he said, thank you for your help. And I said to him, we did our best.
And when you said, we did our best, you were referring to yourself and Conrad Murray, correct?
Correct, yes.
And to everything you knew at that point in time, you thought you each had done your best.
That's correct.
And you had no reason to suspect Conrad Murray had done anything inappropriate at that time, had you?
No, sir.
Did you have any dislike or animosity toward Conrad Murray?
Not at all, sir.
Had he treated you well?
The few times that we spoke, it was a very warm conversation. It was.
As you sit here today, do you have any personal anger or animosity or vendetta against Conrad Murray?
No, sir.
At some point at UCLA, did Conrad Murray ask you to be driven home?
Yes, he asked if he could be taken home back to the house. He first said he was hungry, that he hadn't ate all day, and he said if someone could take him home back to the house. And I believe Michael Muir was not too far from me at that time, and I didn't answer the question, and then he directed that same question to Michael Muir.
Okay. And so you heard that, but were not part of that conversation?
No, sir.
Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. At some point, I assume you left UCLA following the pronouncement of death?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Prior to your departure, and after, let me strike that, after you spoke to Conrad Murray, or rather after you heard Conrad Murray making this request of Michael Muir Williams, did you see Conrad Murray again?
I remember seeing him sitting down, like right in the hallway where the emergency room was at, where they were working on Mr. Jackson. I remember him sitting down and him saying, I wanted him to make it. I wanted him to make it.
Okay.
And after that, I didn't see him.
Okay. So that was the last observation you had of Dr. Murray, was when he was seated there making those statements?
Correct.
Okay. At some point then, did you load up the vehicles with the other security personnel and begin driving somewhere?
Yes, sir. After a few hours, I believe, when we had arranged for Mr. Jackson to be taken to the corners, and we felt the situation was secure, we all loaded up into the vehicles and drove off, sir.
Okay. And Did you eventually then drive to the Carrollwood location?
Yes, sir, we did.
Okay. And the police were already there?
Yes.
Okay. And did you remain outside of the house at that time?
Well, we identified ourselves, and then they allowed us to come into the property with the vehicle, and we stayed inside the property. So.
Okay. Inside the property, but did you go inside the residence?
No, sir.
Okay. Have you seen pictures of yourself standing outside of the house on the property?
No, sir.
Okay. Did you stand outside of the house on the property?
Yes, sir.
Okay. But you left the property shortly thereafter, is that right?
That's correct, sir.
And why was that?
I was asked to take the children's Labrador over to the Jackson's Havenhurst residence, sir.
And that was their dog, Kenya?
That is correct, sir.
Okay. And so did you do that? Did you take Kenya, their Labrador, over to the Havenhurst residence?
That is correct, sir.
Sir, following this incident on June 25th, 2009, through to today's date, have you been approached by media outlets to give an interview?
Yes, I have.
About how many times?
Various times, over 20, 30 times.
Have you agreed to participate in any of these media interviews?
No, sir.
Have you been offered money to participate in these media interviews?
Yes, sir, I have.
About how many times have you been offered money to sit down for a media interview?
I would say about 9, 10 times.
How much money have you been offered?
Up to the sums of $200,000, and remember one offered me $500,000.
And you said no?
I said no.
And the National Enquirer offered you $200,000?
That is correct, sir.
Mr. Alvarez, has anything good come from this tragic incident for you?
No, sir.
What has it done to your life?
No. It's caused a lot of financial problems. Just really don't have steady work, and so I went from a great salary to hardly anything.
You do get sporadic security work?
Yes, I do.
Okay. You've worked kind of one-night jobs for various celebrities over the period of time?
I have, and unfortunately, they try to sell my involvement with Mr. Jackson, and we get accounts in that manner.
But you went then from a full-time, what you described as great salary. Did you enjoy your job?
I sure did.
Okay. And to now, would fair to say you've been pretty much financially wiped out?
I have.
Have you been honest with the law enforcement and honest here today regarding what you observed on June 25th, 2009?
Bolstering the witness.
I'm sorry?
He's bolstering the witness.
Overruled. You may answer the question.
To my best of my ability, yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Alvarez. Nothing further, Your Honor.
Mr. Walden, thank you. Mr. Chernoff, cross-examination, please. Mr. Alvarez, we have met before at the preliminary hearing. You recall that?
Yes, sir.
Today, you've shown a picture was shown to the jury. It's titled People's Exhibit number 27. Let's take a look at it. And you were saying it's your picture, you drew it, and you did a poor job.
Yes, sir.
When did you draw this picture?
I'm sorry?
When did you draw this picture?
Believe it was back when we were supposed to start the trial. I think it was May. It could have been May or April or May of this year, of 2010, 2011.
You drew it after the preliminary hearing.
Yes, sir.
This, however, is not the first picture that you drew of this ID bag, is it?
I could have drawn another one, yes, sir.
In fact, you drew a picture of this ID bag for the police on the 31st of August, 2009.
Yes, sir.
This is Defense Exhibit F, Judge.
F is in Foxtrot.
You remember this picture?
Yes, sir.
This is a picture you drew for the police when you were describing the bag to them.
Okay.
Well, is that a yes? Do you remember that?
I don't recall that I drew that specific picture, sir.
Okay, so I guess it would depend on what a police officer would say about that, right?
I'm sorry?
It would depend on a police officer, what he would say about that? Do you think, did a police officer draw a picture of the ID bag?
Not sure, sir, but I don't recall drawing that because I would have drawn it more specific towards the ID stand, sir.
Well, this picture here that you drew, and by the way, you draw this for the prosecutors?
Objection made. Sustained.
People's Exhibit 27, did you draw this for the prosecutors?
Objection made.
I'll overrule the objection. Do you understand the question?
No, I don't, sir.
Sustained on the ground. We ask.
Who asked you to draw this picture?
Mr. David Walgren, sir.
Is he a prosecutor?
Yes, sir.
Do you know him as a prosecutor?
Yes, sir.
And this was last time that we were preparing for trial. We asked you to draw this picture, right?
Correct, sir.
This picture shows, the picture you say you don't remember drawing, shows tubes coming from an IV bag, right?
Yes, it appears to.
And this picture, if it were drawn during your interview on August 31st, 2009, would have been 2 years earlier.
Correct.
Back to People's Exhibit 27, we see here at the bottom you've drawn a little nub. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay. Now, you recall speaking to the police on August 31st, 2009, don't you?
Yes, I do.
And during that period of time, you never described to them that there was a little pointy nub coming from the bottom of the IV bag.
I don't recall, sir.
You don't recall telling them if you did?
No, I don't recall. No,
Well,
sir.
did you?
I could have. Yes.
But you don't recall.
I don't recall, sir.
Now, the officer you spoke with was Detective Myers,
Correct.
right?
Yes.
So, Detective Myers, you understand, would have taken notes, right?
I believe so, yes.
In fact, Mr. Alvarez, did you know you were being recorded?
Yes, I did.
And did you know there was a transcript of that recording?
Yes, I did.
Would you have any reason to doubt that transcript?
Not at all, sir.
Or that recording?
No, sir.
When we had the preliminary hearing, and you testified there, you recall testifying at the preliminary hearing, right?
Yes.
You never said anything about a nub or anything attached to the IV bag.
Objection as soon as you've asked that question.
The objection is sustained.
You described the IV bag at the hearing, didn't you?
I believe I did.
And you didn't describe that there was some nub coming from the IV bag.
I don't recall, sir.
One of the questions that we asked you at the preliminary hearing was about this milky white substance, right? And we also talked to you about this the IV bag that you said that you saw, right?
Correct.
We asked you questions about that, right?
That's correct, sir.
Now let me show you. Is this yours here? show you, can we turn down the lights, Judge, please? Just over here.
Happy to. Ms. Fox?
Today, you've testified that this, I believe your testimony is, this is the bag that you saw.
That appears to be the bag that I saw, yes, sir.
How do you know?
It looks like the one I took off the stancer.
And you notice here, this particular bag that appears to be the exact bag you saw has no milky substance in it.
Yes, sir. I see that.
We also, let me go back to that. We also asked you at the preliminary hearing to describe the vials that you saw, right?
Correct.
And you said, I can't describe it. You remember saying that?
I believe so, yes.
You said that all you could tell was I asked you the color of the labels, I asked you all kinds of specifics you said you didn't know.
I said I believe I said that I didn't have a clear view of all the bottles, sir.
Well, but today you're saying that this...
Objection. This misstates the testimony. Which files are we talking about?
Well, let me...
Sustained. Just a moment. It's sustained. We asked.
You're saying that this is the bottle you saw on June 25th, 2009. That's your testimony today.
That is
Misstates the testimony. States it appears to be.
I'm an overruling objection, and you may explain.
I said that appears to be the bottle that was in the bag.
Appears.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Alvarez, is it possible, Mr. Alvarez, that you are confused about the timing of these particular events? Is that possible?
No, sir.
Not even possible.
No, sir.
Can you turn the lights on, please?
Thank you.
You recall when you first spoke to police officers that you said that you believed Dr. Murray and you were packing up to go to the hospital.
Yes, sir.
And in fact, you testified to that today, right?
Yes, sir.
And actually, that's exactly what happened. You went to the hospital. So did Dr. Murray. Is that right? So, isn't it possible, Mr. Alvarez, isn't it actually likely that when you talk about things that are being put away, it was after the paramedics came and before you went to the hospital?
No, sir.
All right. Can you put the pad up for me? Judge, we're going to put up a pad and mark on a pad. Is there any particular place you want us? Can we have it right here? Can we put it right in front of the jury?
Do we have an easel?
We did. Right here.
How about that? Scorch it?
Yeah, I think he was asking where you want the easel.
Well, for the benefit of the jury,
Can I put it over here?
perhaps that's the best location. We'll see. I don't know how big you're going to be writing, so. Or you could put it in the middle. I mean, I don't know where it's best. I want to be able to have each juror an alternate seat, so maybe that's the best location.
That's correct.
He asked prior to this here was if he had put any bags away at that time. He said no.
The idea was to keep it just where it was.
Well, they have to see this as well. The jury has to see that.
Oh, I see. Well, one's a little higher than the other, but that's fine. Go ahead. Sure.
911 phone call 1220.
You're going to report back to me these so I can see them.
You want to scoot over, Mr. Logan, and or Ms. Brazil?
It's okay to put on the report.
Sure. You want this marked as defendant's G as in golf, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
It's marked right now, G.
All right.
It's titled Timeline. It's March's Defense Exhibit G, Judge. Thank you. All right. Back to your phone records, we see that when Michael Lemire Williams first called you, he called you at 12:17 p.m. Is that right?
Correct, sir.
And you left a voicemail.
No, sir, I don't believe so. I believe it just went to voicemail. But there was no voicemail.
No voicemail.
No, sir.
And then Michael Lemire Williams calls you again at 12:17.
Correct.
Same time. He leaves a voicemail?
No, sir.
But you call him back right away.
That is correct.
And you call him and you have a 6-second phone call to Michael Lemire Williams.
Correct.
And you don't get him.
No, it went straight to voicemail.
And then you call him again.
Correct.
But you don't get him.
No, sir.
It goes to voicemail again.
That is correct.
And both of these calls took place at 12:18 p.m. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
So the first call was 6 seconds long. The second call was 5 seconds long.
Correct.
Okay. Then at 12:18 you call him again.
Correct.
Is that right? And this phone call lasts 88 seconds.
Yes, sir.
All right. So you would agree that 88 seconds is 1 minute and 28 seconds.
Correct.
So assuming that you got hold of Michael Lemire immediately after 11 seconds had transpired, you would agree that somehow you got hold of Michael Lemire somewhere at 12:19.
Yes. Oh, it says 12:18.
Well, you spoke for 88 seconds. You hung up with him after 88 seconds. Is that right?
Okay. Yes.
Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Your testimony is that you were speaking to Michael Lemire.
Yep.
You went out in front of the house, still on the phone to Michael Lemire, right?
Yes.
You went to the front door, still talking to Michael Lemire.
Correct.
You went up the stairs, still talking to Michael Lemire.
That's correct.
And then when you were on the landing and Dr. Murray said something to you, you hung up with Michael Lemire.
That is correct, sir.
And that took 88 seconds.
That's what it says, yes.
When you received the phone call from Michael Lemire, you had been hanging out at the trailer for about 2 hours. Is that right?
Approximately, yes.
And you weren't doing anything particularly stressful, were you?
No, sir.
In fact, you were checking emails,
I was on the computer.
browsing the internet maybe?
I believe so.
And when the call came in, or you finally spoke to Michael Lemire, would it be fair to say that it was alarming, the phone call?
It sounded serious, so yes, my senses were up.
What did he say to you exactly?
He said, first thing he says, Alberto, where are you at? And I said, I'm at the house. I'm at the property. And he says, okay, get up. Don't make too much of a distraction, or don't make don't make any sudden moves where you were going to alarm anybody into that regard, sir.
Did he tell you there was something wrong with Mr. Jackson?
No, sir. All he said was go to the front of the house.
And going to the front of the house, as you already identified, is not a usual occurrence.
Well, I mean, when we're asked to go in through the front of the house, then we would go in through the front of the house, but it's not unusual.
You pointed out that when you usually go through the front of the house is when you're dropping Mr. Jackson off.
Correct.
You take his stuff then.
Right.
It's after the rehearsal.
Correct.
But you going through the front of the door, generally speaking, is an unusual occurrence.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't call it unusual. It's just not it didn't happen all the time.
Let's take a look at Exhibit People Exhibit 6. You've already pointed out the security trailer's right here. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Pointing to that white box that you've already identified for the record.
Yes.
And next to the security trailer, there's a little tower, which is, there's a door right next to the security trailer that's attached to that tower. Is that right?
Correct.
Goes to the kitchen. If you need to use the restroom, you go through the kitchen.
That is correct, sir.
But he asked you to go to the front.
That is correct, sir.
And then at some point, he asked you to jog.
I'm sorry?
He asked you to jog. He asked you to run.
Oh, yes. He told me to speed up, yes.
Did that alarm you?
Well, I was already heightened. So, I mean, I just, proceeded to speed up.
And you go from sitting in the trailer, browsing the internet, right?
Yes.
Nothing's happening.
Correct.
You had no concern that anything was happening inside the house.
That's correct, sir.
To go to the front door, start jogging to the front door, get in there.
Correct.
Your tension was heightened.
That is correct.
You get to the front door, and you're instructed to go upstairs. Is that right?
At this particular moment, no. Until I said, the front door is locked. And then once the nanny approached and opened the door, I told Michael Mir, okay, I'm inside the house. Then he instructed me to go upstairs.
And you did.
I did.
And that's unusual, too.
That was unusual, yes.
And in fact, you said you've been upstairs twice.
Right.
Both times was merely to help bring the hairdresser up.
That is correct, sir.
So this is unusual.
Yes.
Did you think at this time that maybe there was something wrong with Mr. Jackson?
Yes. I knew something was wrong. I didn't know it was with Mr. Jackson.
And you are Mr. Jackson's security.
That's correct.
You're his security, his safety. That's paramount. That's your responsibility, right?
That's correct.
You were concerned.
I was concerned, yes.
You get up to the landing. You see Dr. Murray walking through the foyer.
Yes.
To the foyer, and then you hang up the phone with Michael Amir when he says something.
Correct, sir.
All right. So let's go over all the things that you did.
Yes.
Prior to calling 911.
Okay.
You walked through the foyer.
Yes.
You walked from the landing to the foyer.
Yes.
Into the bedroom.
Correct.
All right. And as you walked into the bedroom, there was a scene that opened up to you that was shocking.
Correct, sir.
And in fact, you were stunned.
I was shocked, yes.
You saw Michael Jackson lying there with his mouth open, with his eyes open, right?
Correct.
And at that period of time, you were frozen.
I was, I don't recall if I was frozen at that time, but I know it was shocking to see the situation.
You were in shock.
Yes, it was stunning, yes.
And you looked around the room.
Not at that particular time, sir.
Well, you looked at Mr. Jackson.
Correct.
And that put you in shock.
Yes.
And then you said to Dr. Murray, what happened?
No, sir.
Dr. Murray said to you, the very first thing he said to you when you went into that room, we need an ambulance. We need to get to the hospital.
We need to get him to the hospital. We need an ambulance. Yes.
And you knew what he meant by that.
I knew what he meant.
And you reached down for your phone.
Correct.
Didn't have Bluetooth.
No, sir.
You reached down for your phone. Where was your phone?
In my pocket, sir.
And you took out your phone.
I did not take out my phone, sir.
Did you touch your phone?
I was reaching into my pocket, sir.
When you first entered the door and you surveyed the area, you were at the door exactly. Is that right?
A little further in.
So a few steps inside.
Yes, sir.
You were going to call 911.
Yes, sir.
And you were interrupted at that point by the children.
Correct.
And you explained how that was. It was both Paris and Prince, wasn't it?
That is correct, sir.
And Paris was very upset.
Yes.
And Dr. Murray said, don't let them see their father like this.
Yes.
Get him out.
Get him out. Yes.
But you would have done that on your own, right?
No, sir. I was just in the moment, and I didn't think about ushering them out. I was thinking about the situation, sir.
Well, I mean, you didn't want them to see their father that way either, right?
Well, sir, I was concerned about Mr. Jackson at that time, sir.
Okay. But you escorted him out.
Yes, I did.
You escorted him out the door of the bedroom, right?
Correct.
Through the foyer,
Correct.
through the landing.
No, sir. I stopped at the door.
You recall telling this whole, or testifying at the preliminary hearing?
I recall, yes.
And you have, but prior to testifying today, you reviewed your testimony at the preliminary hearing, haven't you?
I'm sorry, sir.
You have reviewed your testimony from the preliminary hearing, haven't you?
I have.
When's the last time you reviewed?
A couple of weeks ago.
You recall stating at the preliminary hearing you walked them to the landing?
I recall saying that I walked them outside the room, sir.
Well, Paris was upset.
Yes.
You didn't push the kids out.
Of course not.
You escorted them.
They followed my instructions when I said, please, children, go outside. We'll take care of the situation. Everything's going to be okay.
So you talked to the children.
Correct.
You comforted them.
I said those words, yes.
You said, please, don't worry, we'll take care of them.
Yes.
You didn't yell at them, right?
Not at all, sir.
You didn't say, get out of here, right?
No, sir.
You comforted them. Did you look at them in the eyes when you said that?
I don't recall. I remember looking at both of them.
Then after comforting the children, you went back then into the room.
Correct, sir.
And your testimony today is you did not go outside the foyer?
That is correct, sir.
So you went back through the foyer
That is correct.
into the bedroom.
Yes, sir.
When you come into the room that second time, you close the door, leaving the door slightly ajar.
Correct.
So you walk back into the room
Yes.
and slightly close the door.
Correct. Well, if I may, sir, I didn't walk back into the room. Like I said, I stopped at the door.
Walk inside the door?
No, sir. I
Right
said I
outside
stopped
the
at the door, and I just retracted a little bit and ajarred the door.
Walk to door. Is that fair?
Correct. Yes.
Close the door. And this second time that you came into the room, you were
I'm sorry, Brian. Do we have to, I don't believe the witness can see what's being drawn on this board.
You want to see?
Sure.
Well, the statements of the witness are what's evidence, not what counsel may write.
Well, then I object to counsel's testifying if it's not going to be presented to the witness.
Well, we're not going to have testimony, and apparently some of the jurors can't see. Now it's turned away. That's the whole issue with the placement of the exhibit. So I'm overruling the objection, but we're going to do it the right way.
Can I put it here?
Well, I don't know if that makes a difference to the jurors either, because the writing is small.
I can't see.
Juror 7 was saying she can't see. I can understand that. Well, I think it's a problem for the other jurors and the alternates.
Well, I've got a lot to write down, so I got to write that.
Well, maybe it's better to use an overhead.
Okay.
I think
Well,
that's where we have these contractions.
Well, if we're going to use the overhead, then I guess we need to start over here. We need to rewrite this. But let me.
The jurors are the fact finders.
So
It's
let
not
me-
for our
let me
edification.
just-
Just a moment, please. It's not for our edification. It's for the jurors' view, and the jurors decide the evidence. They don't decide what counsel writes on a board. So we do it, please, Mr. Turner. Thank you. Thank you, Jim.
You left the door ajar.
Yes.
Is that right?
That's correct, sir.
And you asked Dr. Murray what happened.
Correct.
And Dr. Murray told you he had a bad reaction.
He had a reaction. He had a bad reaction.
Would it be fair to say that you're standing there at the door, you were frozen?
No, sir, it's not fair. As he said that, I was already at the bottom of the bed, sir.
You recall testifying to these facts at the preliminary hearing?
I don't recall my exact same words, but I recall saying that.